To describe Mathieu Lehanneur as a designer conceals more than it reveals. From bases in Paris and New York, Mathieu and a team of 20 work on commissions from a highly diverse range of clients, from a local church to a global luxury brand, from new inventions to simple nature. His practice is where science, psychology, medicine and physiology redraw the boundaries of design. Spaces, be they homes, institutions, gathering places or temporary exhibits, are as sensory as they are visual. The objects he designs blend technology and craft together in a unique aesthetic. And whilst Mathieu defines himself as designer not artist, based on his needs for a question to start his creative process, you can find his art is in many large museums and gallery collections. 2024 elevated Mathieu to a new level globally with his elegant, logical and technically advanced relay cauldron, Olympic torch and the Olympic cauldron which rose into the skies above Paris throughout the Games. Light, magical and unifying.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Paris, Mathieu Lehanneur.
This is our way that we used to say hello in France centuries ago. Thing? No, not yet. Yes, I'm a designer. I'm running my offices and showroom in Paris and New York. But yes, I'm a designer, but no, I do not spending my time with papers and pen, designing curves and trying to focused only on the aesthetic. Of course, aesthetic is part of the job, but a very tiny part, actually. My main part is to work that way, just behind, that you can see behind me. I mean, without drawing, just by trying to close my eyes and trying to be in contact with the people who are living around me in this planet, and trying to understand the mind, trying to understand the perception of the human being, and trying to understand the instinct of human being. And I would like to share some thoughts during this talk, just to make you feel how instinct and perception might be very, very powerful tools for a designer. So, okay, with instinct, but let's take an example. Can instinct clean the door and save money? Weird question. Okay. But here we are in a public toilets for male, so in front of urinals. And probably the male part of the audience see what I mean. And it's a huge issue to basically to keep those places clean and transmit a quality wherever you are. It might be in a stadium, it might be in an airport, but in a public space. But 40 years ago, some guys in Netherlands thought that maybe we can play on the instinct to make those places clean and to reduce the cost about the people who have to clean. So for that, they had invent this. And this is a very basic stuff. It's basically a fly printed into the urinal. And I don't know if some of you have already met this, probably. And probably you can confirm that in front of this, frankly, it's almost impossible not to target the fly. This is instinct. This is a compulsion of the male who basically consider his penis as a gun, but it might be another talk for next time. But the beauty of it, it's super simple, super smart. I don't know if it's a beautiful object, but at the end there is a problem and there is a solution that took your mind to solve it. Okay. Can instinct save a life? Yes. Instinct can save a life. We are in Chicago, right here, on a beautiful road, 8 lines, straight, beautiful. You got the building on the left, you got the Michigan Lake on the right, and the city have to face a tremendous problem because basically people, the drivers, were going too fast because there was enjoying the speed. We're talking about Formula One. It's just the same aspects. But the main problem, it's at the end of the road, as you can see on the image, there is a bend, a 90 degrees bend. So too many people actually fall down into the water. So, of course, the city tried to find many different solutions. They put some signs, they transmitting messages thanks to the radio. They put policemen there. Nothing worked. So one guy in the mayor's team think about something. What don't we play with instinct? And actually, they have created an optical illusion, a pure optical illusion. Basically, they paint white stripes parallel, but perpendicular to the traffic. So you have to imagine yourself in your car driving, and basically you're going to see those white stripes. But as you can see on the view from above, the white stripe is more and more shrink when you go next to the bend. So optically, you feel the speed, even if your car do not speed up. So by this way, they have been able to reduce, and as I heard, there is no more people who fall down into the street. Can instinct be a medicine? When I was a student at design school in Paris, I wanted to facing one of the major issues in the medical treatments. We know today, and the scientific world knows today, that 50%, one of two pills is not taken correctly. It means one of two pills, one of two treatments basically is useless. And not useless because of the active principle that is not good enough, not because the molecule is not efficient, only because of the behaviors of the patient. You probably know, just like me, you probably stop your antibiotics treatment. Probably because you were feeling better, maybe because you forgot, maybe because you were thinking that I do not need anymore. So basically, you stop. So I try to imagine several different design solutions, keeping the molecules, keeping the active principle, but trying to transform and create new relationship, basically between the patient, almost alone, and the treatment. I would like to share you one, this is the collection that I have designed. And I would like to share you one piece that I've created. It's a device for asthma treatment, and specifically dedicated for the kids. When you suffer with asthma treatment, basically you have to take a device, a molecule for the crisis, and you have to take another one that is dedicated for long-lasting use and super crucial, super critical, because it's going to reduce the crisis. But for the kids, it's more and more difficult for them to take it. So I wanted to create a relationship, one more time, a relationship. And I wanted to create a kind of dependency, but not a dependency that would make the kid dependent on the molecule, dependent on the treatment, but to inverse the relationship and to make the kid feel that the treatment, the medicine, the device needs me. So the idea is, you get the device, it's purely geometrical, almost perfect, quite minimalistic in a way, and on your bedside. And during the night, the device will blow up by itself. So when the kid is waking up into the morning, you can see the device. The day before it was perfectly geometrical, and it turned to be distorted, almost painful. So to save the treatment, to save the object, just like a Tamagotchi device, to save the treatment, you're going to pick it up, you're going to stick the air, you're going to absorb the air by the mouth, and the air, of course, contain the molecule. So you can see as the animation during the night, it's blowing by itself, and you put it into the mouth, and so if forget he needs something, he just take care of something. And basically, it's when we talk about instinct, it's probably one of the first move, the first instinct for a human being to take care of someone else. Can instinct help to feel alive? I have been commissioned a few years ago by the head of a big hospital in Paris, and specifically he asked me to invent something, to design something for the palliative care department. Palliative care department is a place into the hospital where actually the patient will live the last days, weeks, sometimes months of their life. And he wanted me to create something that will help the patients themselves, that will help also the staff, that will help the nurses, and that will help the relatives to create a new ecosystem of relationship between all those entities. And I came out with an idea, a simple idea, basically. I wanted to bring the idea of escape, first of all. I wanted to make the patient feel that, okay, I am in the hospital, this is the end of my life, but I can keep escaping. So I wanted to play on the idea of sky. And I wanted also to make the patient feeling surrounded by the people he or she loves. So I wanted to create this type of connection between him or her and his relatives, thanks to the piece. The piece is titled Tomorrow is Another Day, and the concept of it is it installed in every single room in the palliative care department, and it will continuously display the sky of tomorrow. So even if you won't be able to see the sky by yourself on tomorrow, because maybe you will be passed away, you always know what tomorrow will look like. The idea for me was to give a kind of power, a kind of capability for the patient to always see tomorrow. And when you talk about instinct, tomorrow it's, if you think about it, we are continuously talking about tomorrow. We talk about next weekend, we talk about next holidays, we talk about when we're going to be retired. Since we are born, we always speak about the day after, unless when you are in this type of department. So I wanted to bring back this idea. Can instinct take place in a church? It was another very interesting commission for me and very rare because it came out from a priest in a small city in France. And this priest got a church, a very old 11th century church. And he asked me to redesign, to invent, to create the core of the church. It was an existing one. And the first time I visited the church, it was this one, made out of wood, very basic, and with fences all around it. And fences because he wanted to avoid people, tourists, visitors, believers, to go crossing by. So he asked me to create something that creates, you remember the white stripes on the road, to create this type of effect that's making people naturally respecting the place and naturally living a kind of spiritual experience with the core. And for that, I created a huge natural landscape totally made out of marble that would feeling emerging from the historical floor of the church and make, when you be around, a kind of a thing that not put a distance between you and it, but create a kind of respect approach you need to get. And the priest wanted also to actually being able to talk to the believers, but not feel on an upper level than them. So by this way, on playing on a natural landscape, he led them the opportunity to be just like I am in front of you, but a bit higher, but in a natural way. So, that's the topic of the day. Can instinct be a soft power? I've been commissioned last year to design, and it's quite honorific, to design the three main objects, the three main assets of the Paris 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And for me, it was a way to tell a story, but also it was a way to talk to the rest of the world about France. I took inspiration for the torch, let's start with the torch, with three main pillars. The first one was to talk about equality. Equality is part of the national motto in France. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Equality, it was important for me because for the very first time in those Olympic Games, it was a perfect parity between male and female athletes. So I play on this idea of equality and turn it for the object into a fully symmetrical torch. I wanted to express also the idea of the water. Water because we knew at this stage that the opening ceremony will take place around the banks of the Seine River in Paris. So water was a kind of thread, a kind of common link during these Olympic Games. And the third pillar, the third inspiration was to talk about peacefulness. I wanted this torch not to be a kind of conquest object, not make it talking about performance or powerful, but make something that I transmit, a kind of generosity, a kind of gift. And probably on top of that, and since the very beginning, when I was probably on the floor in my office, like the slide you saw, I was thinking that I want the object, it was not designed yet, but I want this object being eye-catching, appealing enough to make people want watching it, but at the same time, simple enough to make any kid, it might be in Paris, in Bangkok, in Shanghai, wherever, being able, in front of the TV, I saw the torch and I'm able to design it by myself. I wanted by this way to make any kind of human being on this planet being able to take this torch for him or her. And basically, when I discovered the cover of the New Yorker magazine that turned the French baguette, we talked about the baguette before, the cliché of the baguette, into the torch, it was for me a good way that maybe the object, it started to become an iconic element. For the Olympic quadrant, it was another story. I mean, another inspiration. For that, I wanted to create a collective and super personal experience at the same time. And for me, the best metaphor or the best inspiration came from the sun itself. I mean, we know the sun, we know the sunset. It's always the same. But we want to we want to be as close as we can from the sun, and we might be alone, we might be with friends, we might be with relatives. It's collective and personal at the same time, and it brings a kind of permanence and consistent emotion. And beside that, I wanted to pay tribute to the history of France. And I discovered when I was working on the project that the very first time that human beings have been able to fly, it was in France. We can be proud of it. It was in France, thanks to the hot air balloon invented by the Montgolfier brothers. It was in 1783. And 2 years after, the hydrogen balloon have been invented by a famous physician. So it was for me, yes, I told to myself, it might be the right point to tell the story and to invent what should be the Olympic sun. What is the Olympic sun of Paris 2024 that would take off and landed every single day and night. So it was a long process. We have to make many tests, and day after day, the strong emotion that a lot of people in this planet have felt, basically that we estimate that it's about 5 up to 6 billion people who have seen those elements. I wanted them to, yes, to be moved. I wanted to make them cry, actually, yeah? Or at least goosebumps. But it was actually my target. But what was amazing, it was the day after, this emotion turned into pride. And in France, it's quite rare to be proud of something. So, but I heard this around me, and it was, for me, the good sign that it was an object that combined history, culture, beauty, innovation, invention in the same object. So day after day, this object turned to become a kind of symbol, a kind of icon, a kind of temporary monument. And I can't resist to share with you a video of one takeoff during this amazing summer period that we lived.
Attention pour décollage.
I came with a friend, my best friend actually, that I would like to introduce you. As I know, it's the very first time that Olympic torch of Paris 2024 land into Bangkok. So we have to take care of it. Now, just a few words to finish. Recently, the French president just announced that the Olympic cauldron will stay for 3 more years at least in Paris. So if you didn't get the chance to come and enjoy it, feel free to come and visit Paris. It will be a good way. And for me, very interesting things. Of course, it will become a kind of souvenir, a kind of memory of those amazing Olympic Games. But probably more than that, it's turned to become a kind of monument, a kind of new monument, maybe a kind of new soft monument, maybe a kind of new soft power for France. Thank you.
Mathieu Lehanneur, a big round of applause, please. And thank you very much. Let's pass that back to somebody for safekeeping. And if you'd join me here for a bit of a chat, I want to dig into a couple of things. You've talked about the objective of your work. It's about instinct. It's about human connection. And we saw in that video human connection with the audience at the opening of the Paris Olympics. I want to talk about your personal reaction with your family.
During the opening ceremony it was crazy. It was insane. Do you remember the rains that fall down? And actually, I was very next to the Olympic cauldron, and by chance, I was with my family. I was with my wife, my daughter, and son. And my daughter was really next to me, knew what will happen. It was highly confidential what will happen. Nobody knew that, but my daughter knew, because of course. And when the balloons start to take off, she cried. But not just one tears like that, no. Something deep, very deep. And for me, it was the first sign that, okay, we have been able to reach something that I wanted to reach. I mean, something deeper and super personal for every single human on this planet.
And particularly for you, all we want as parents is for our children to be proud of us. You achieved that.
Yeah, frankly, I worked since 2.5 decades. This is the very first time, I guess, they are proud of their father. I worked a lot since a long time. I show them anything. Oh, okay. And this, okay, Dad, okay, give me 5.
My dad's cool.
Yeah, my dad's cool.
So the Paris 2024 work you did, the torch we've seen, thank you for bringing it, the cauldron, your most famous work probably. But is it actually your favorite work?
Probably it's my favorite one because I wanted, it is what I tried to express today since a long time, to try to show that an object is not only a question of design, it's not only a question of shape, it's not only a question of getting the right curves, it's a question of how an object is able to interact with a human being in a certain way. And I try to do this since many years. And with those ones, have been the proof that it might be possible. There is no function for a torch. A torch you do not need a torch. It's just something, a symbol, a ritual, something with human being. It's the same for the cauldron. But showing that, creating an object that make people feel super moved, that make people crying, that make people talking together in a different way, yes, it means that an object might be more than an object.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end. An object is more than an object. It is, in fact, an icon, and one of them is sitting with us today. Big round of applause, please. Mathieu Lehanneur.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Terrific. Do you want to take the clicker with you?